What's good, YouTube? What's up, PlayStation Nation? We are back with another interview. We have a special treat for you guys today. We are interviewing no other than Darren Korb from Supergiant Games. These are the guys that are responsible for creating Bastion and Transistor. And we'll be talking to you guys about their newly developed game called Pyre. So yeah, let's get right into it and let's introduce yourself, Darren. It's a
Yes.
pleasure having
Hi.
you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, my name is Darren Korb. I'm the audio director for Supergiant Games, and I do all the music and sound and all those shenanigans for the games that we make.
Oh, that's amazing right there in itself because one thing you guys are notable for is the music and sound.
Great
Mhm.
soundtracks.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, because the soundtracks is just amazing with it. I look at you guys. You guys are a very highly reputable indie studio. So I usually call you guys like the triple A of indies, because your consistency is so on point, especially for your last two games. Um,
Awesome.
and yeah, going into that, uh, you know, there is that high, reputation that you guys have with creating a game such as Bastion and Transistor. And leading into to Pyre, what can you tell fans of your games, Supergiant Games? What can you tell the fans? What is there to expect from Pyre from you guys?
Yeah. Well, you bring up an interesting point, which was that, we certainly, when we were making Transistor, we had some nerves about following it up. There was definitely some nervousness about sort of walking the line between doing something that was too similar and doing something that was too different. We sort of wanted to thread the needle as best we could, and that was really a concern on Transistor. I think this time around, that's like we were kind of anxious to try something a little bit more different.
Yeah.
From things we've done in the past. So, and we didn't really have that same sort of worry. Um, if the game doesn't do well, we can always, now we've made a couple of games, so it's not like as much of an emergency if they,
Yeah.
so, but still, obviously, we were comfortable taking what we felt like was a little bit of a risk for us. So anyway, yeah, this game is a party-based RPG. And it has a pretty different combat system. The other two games I think you could describe as action RPGs in some form or another. Bastion is a little bit more arcadey, and Transistor has a little bit more of a tactical component.
Yeah. Which I loved, by the way. Transistor
Awesome.
combat is so amazing, so fluid. But continue. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, thank you so much. That's great. I really loved that combat system as well. And at the time we were working on that game, a lot of us, XCOM Enemy Unknown had come out like while we were developing that game, and all of us were super, super into that. Even things like Hero Academy and other stuff, the turn-based stuff. So that was something that we were interested in at the time. And this game, the thing that prompted us to go the direction we went with Pyre, I think, partially was an interest in doing something different with failure in a game. Because most games, when the failure state is you die and you start over, or something kind of like that. You go back to the checkpoint, you reload your save.
Mm-hmm.
And we were fascinated by something that was more structurally like a league, like a sports league or something.
Yeah.
Where teams lose and then sort of have to just continue and deal with that, or their players have a player that's injured and can't play and they have to deal with that, and there are some things that we liked about that sport-like structure that we wanted to sort of apply differently and put in, and so the context for Pyre is, you lead this band of exiles through a sort of mystical purgatory, and you're competing in these ancient rituals to try and earn back your freedom.
Okay.
And so that's sort of the setup of the game, right? And the actual combat itself ends up being these sort of 3-on-3 matches against opposing teams of exiles. And so that's the combat. So it sort of has more just two kind of more discrete states than in the previous games, where it's sort of all you're wandering around and you fight some stuff.
Yeah.
In this game, it's sort of, there's like the outside of combat mode, which is one thing, and then kind of more like a traditional RPG in a lot of ways. In that, the combat is like a separate state from the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right. One question I want to ask is, what inspired Supergiant to create Pyre? Like any TV shows, movies, novels that?
Yeah, we all have a lot of different influences on the team, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone individually has a lot of things that play into what they're doing on the game. I, for one, wanted to lean really hard into the kind of more straightforward fantasy component that this game has that I don't think the other ones had. They were both kind of twisted. I would describe Bastion as like a kind of like a weird kind of fantasy frontier mashup thing, and then Transistor is sort of like that kind of thing, but for science fiction, I would say. And this, we really wanted to try to do something that was more, just leaning into the fantasy thing. And so I really wanted to do that musically, but I really wanted to make it feel a little bit more almost like 70s, kind of like a classic rock, like fantasy classic rock, like acoustic-y with like flutes and things like that.
Yeah.
Because the Gen's visual style really, when it was starting to shape up, really reminded me of things like the Lord of the Rings cartoon and like other stuff like that back from the 70s.
Yeah.
That I really enjoy the style of, and so I wanted to sort of kind of help reinforce the feel of that, musically speaking. And there's of course a bunch of other elements that come into play, but that was sort of where the kernel of what led me to do what I'm doing on the game.
All right.
Okay.
Funny thing is, I was just playing Bastion right before this podcast.
Nice.
Great game.
Thank you.
I have a question about the multiplayer side of things.
Mm-hmm.
At PSX, that booth was gaining a lot of traction. When you guys were in development of it, did you really think that the multiplayer side of things would actually like really get on fire, like really start to have a boom like that? Or was it just like one of those ideas that just came up and he's like, let's put this together and see how it works?
Yeah, it's when we started putting the game together and the structure of the game was such that it was just sort of like an even matchup, in the combat. So it was like your team of three versus another team of three. The idea of multiplayer was pretty, it was always there, I think. It was something that we thought, this game would lend itself to pretty well. So, and when we are, as we've been developing it, we've been playing against each other a lot to help tune the combat and balance it and everything, just to sort of, refine the systems. And we just have so much fun whenever we do that, that we thought, what, we probably need to make this into an actual mode, because this is really fun.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I wanted to ask you guys, continue on the multiplayer aspect of the game, because you guys are known for such single player, narrative based games,
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to ask you guys, what were like the challenges for you guys creating a game that also implements some multiplayer towards Pyre?
Yeah, I think it's the main challenge is just the extra work, of creating a discrete mode. But other than that, it's not, our focus is still on telling a really compelling story and having the single player feel satisfying and, and all that. And we consider the multiplayer mode to be like a bonus, something that we're excited about having and that we're excited that we're able to have. But, I think still our focus is on making sure we have a really compelling single player experience, no matter what. And so the multiplayer is, we've sort of had an eye on it kind of as we've been developing the game. So we've been able to sort of do things to make it not be in a totally non-existent state when we really started working on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we've been sort of, doing a little bit here and there on it as we go, and keep maintaining it. So I think the work that there is left on on that mode, I think a lot of it's been done already, actually. So I don't feel too worried about it.
Yeah, because multiplayer is always such a ever growing thing or ever adjusting thing. Are there challenges with like balancing issues, or how do you guys like test that kind of things when it comes to Pyre? Or was PSX something that was a format for testing that kind of things? Just seeing how gamers interact.
Yeah, I mean, it's always really nice for us to see people play the games, because you learn a lot about the game, I think, when people play it. The thing that's interesting about the multiplayer is that because it's based on the single player combat system, we sort of have a lot of the information that we would get from people playing already, sort of from having shown it at PAX a couple of times, the single player. But it was really interesting to see people play each other, because I think this game is sort of deceptively simple.
Mm-hmm.
The combat, it's sort of easy to get the basic setup. You take the thing, you go put it in their Pyre, your guy gets knocked out, etc. But really seeing some high level play is really exciting when there are people who kind of figure out a lot of the nuances pretty quick.
Yeah.
And when it gets to that higher level of play, it's almost more like a fighting game or something, where it's really about understanding your opponent's strategy and countering it, and really going after things that you perceive as their weaknesses when they leave themselves open, and responding to it. And it's really, when we play each other in the office, and we've been playing it more than anybody's played it, we're doing some crazy stuff.
Now you're going down my alley. Once you said the fighting the game aspect, that opens up a huge, potential right here. I didn't personally play it, looking at the gameplay and all that stuff. I can definitely see what you're talking about. I'm like lining up everything from what I'm seeing. Mm-hmm. And that sounds really good, man. I'm getting hyped, man.
It's very competitive.
It is. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like the way it plays almost is like it's got a little bit of NBA Jam in there, and a little bit of sort of fighting game, kind of, because it's more. I would say it's more nuanced and a little faster paced than NBA Jam, and more aggressive, but then it's got this sort of rooted in this sort of fantasy sport that we've created, which is it gives us a lot of freedom to do stuff that you couldn't do in just a sports game. Things that are just sort of don't have any connection to reality. They're sort of magical in nature or whatever. You can't do anything like that in an actual sports game. So yeah, it's been really cool to approach it that way, and kind of cherry pick sort of things that we like about these different styles of games that we all enjoy, and try to mash them up in an interesting way.
Oh yeah, that sounds amazing.
Now, one question I have is, will there be any online? Because I know ever since PSX, because I was one of them that asked, will there be online? Mm-hmm. And I know, did y'all get a lot of feedback about the online at PSX? Go ahead.
Yeah, we had that question for sure. I mean, right now we're just really focusing on getting the single player good and the local multiplayer to be the best they can be, And we're such a small team that we don't want to sort of overscope and have to sacrifice the quality of those other things to kind of make sure we have multiplayer. So that's something that we're interested in. If we can do it well, we'll do it. If we don't feel like we can do it well, then we'll leave it out. Just because the thing that's really important to us is just making sure that everything that is in there feels really good and finished and polished. So sort of long story short, kind of answer is, we are looking at it, but we're not. We definitely are not saying that we will have it. Yeah.
Okay.
So I kind of want to piggyback off the fighting game comments you said. Hypothetically speaking, let's say if you guys did have an online mode and it really got popular, could you see this game being an esports caliber kind of thing?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's super. It depends on how much depth is really there. And, when the community gets their hands on it, I'm sure people will discover all sorts of stuff and play in really interesting ways. No, but I mean, I really enjoy, I really enjoy playing this game multiplayer with my coworkers and everybody else in the office. It's super, super fun. So I could see that. I think it's a pretty unique kind of head-to-head experience that a lot of people haven't had before. So I think it could, if people really dig it, it's sort of up to them, right? It's up to the community. If people end up really, really enjoying it and getting into it, then yeah, I could see that.
Oh, that's cool. Because one of the great things about, on the PlayStation 4 side of things, is, certain features when it comes to the console. And, even if it like say it's not online centric like that, there's certain features like share play. And even if you do, take it to the online aspect, will you use things like having this game be available for, the tournament app within the events area of the PlayStation? Are you guys looking into stuff like that?
Oh, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah,
the tournament. Yeah, I should check that out.
It's fairly new. It's fairly new on PlayStation, where in the events area, where you can set up your events or devs have events. There's a tournament section there now. And looking, just listening to you, how you're talking about the PvP aspect of the game. It seems like that game definitely fits in that area where, people can just sign up and go online, or just using, certain features like share play. So you can play with friends, like, virtual couch co-op kind of ordeal. Is that something that is feasible with you guys, or?
I really don't know, honestly. I that's sort of not my area of expertise on the team. So I don't know. That kind of stuff all sounds cool, and if we have the bandwidth for stuff like that, it's something that we consider. It's definitely not out of the question. But again, it's just about, we only have 2 programmers on our team, and anything that involves online anything, it's just like, that's just at least one guy's job all the time. We want to make sure that we have everything else lined up before we really dive in to the online stuff too much.
Okay.
About the characters in the game, because when I was playing Pyre, there was like 3 characters on the field, the big tanky guy, a woman, and like the little dog creature. Like, can you tell us more about those characters?
Yeah, so those we're showing 3 different archetypes in the demo, and we have the cur is the little dog dude. That's the type of character he is. His name is Rookie, the one. There's a few sets that we show in the multiplayer. Rookie on the sort of left side, and Barker is on the right side. He's a different cur in the universe, and then the sort of medium-sized people are nomads. That's what we call them. And Headwind was on the left side, and Sandro's on the right side in the demo. And then the big dudes are called demons. And Joe Dariel is the demon on the left side, and then on the right side, I believe that's Ignarius. He's another demon from the world. And there, those are all the archetypes that we have announced and discussed. But we plan on having more of them, and each one will play differently, so that it will add new sort of have gameplay consequences for both the single player and the multiplayer, for sure.
All right.
Okay. Let me try to properly word this right. I've seen the single player mode. I didn't get a chance to fully touch it, but I did watch somebody play the PSX. I noticed that you guys have a distinct certain thing for all your games. Bastion was like upbeat, even like going through the apocalyptic kind of destruction that was going on. Transistor was dystopian. Yeah. This seems more dark, medieval, gritty kind of going on in Pyre. Is that what you guys got the inspiration from, medieval times and stuff like that?
Well, yeah, we set out, I think, to make something that is more of a fantasy game, kind of more in a more straightforward way, and so definitely a lot of fantasy was interesting to us. There's some sort of kind of dark fantasy meets sort of high fantasy stuff that was compelling to us. I mean, I think whenever we approach something like that that's a trope, we always like to kind of turn it on its head a little bit and embellish on it a lot, so that it's not super recognizable at the end. but that's definitely the place we were coming from with it. It looks like Jay has been asking questions in the chat. I just started seeing them.
Oh yeah, those are like, community questions. I'm going to ask them a little bit later.
Got it. Okay, perfect.
It's in there. But the stars have aligned, just having you in this, hangout, which is amazing, because one of the questions I have to ask, and don't beat me up too much, but I have to ask this: will there be a separate soundtrack when this game releases next year?
Will there be a sound? Yeah, we definitely plan to release a soundtrack for the game. That is our plan.
Oh man, now I'm just laughing all over it. I'm happy. I'm
awesome.
Giddy.
Good. Glad I could provide some happiness.
It's an amazing thing, because like honestly, like with Transistor, oh my goodness, like playing that game, and also just having that soundtrack with me. I was listening to that soundtrack in my office at work all day, every day, and I'm like, never get tired of that stuff.
I told him that.
You guys really nail the music aspect of your games. Like the narrative is always there. You guys are known for like great, gameplay mechanics. And one thing I like about you guys too, your controls are always tight. Even looking at, the gameplay with Pyre, I can see that the controls are tight. Things are moving fast paced. It's looking like it's a very fast paced type of multiplayer type of ordeal.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's a key component to a great game, developing a great game, in my opinion. But one thing I love about gaming is if you have a beautiful musical score with it, you know what I mean? Because if that lines up with everything and is hitting all aspects, it's just like you're hooked. I'm there. I'm with you. So it's cool to see that you guys are gonna do that for the fans as well, because I'm pretty sure that's probably a very high request.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we fans have been really incredible with their sort of enthusiasm for the soundtracks. It's been really amazing and sort of unexpected and just awesome. I mean, when we released Bastion, we had plans to sort of eventually do a soundtrack. Yeah, because we'd shown at a couple of different shows, and Danny Baranowski had said to me like, "Hey, you guys should make a soundtrack. It's doing really, my soundtrack for Super Meat Boy is doing really well." I was like, "Oh, awesome, great, well, that's a good idea." Because I didn't even know that was a thing for that really. So yeah, I mean, we ordered up some soundtracks and yeah, I mean, we just sold out of the first run and then sold out of the second run. I mean, it was really an incredible and unexpected thing. So I definitely appreciate all the enthusiasm for the soundtracks, and I hope that Pyre soundtrack excites people as well.
Oh yeah, I'm super excited. Super excited.
Oh yeah, the soundtrack for Pyre is sounding good so far. From the single player demo that y'all had set up at PSX, I was just like, I was talking to John Gabler. I was like, yo, this soundtrack is amazing so far. I can't wait for
awesome.
Pyre. But talking about the soundtrack is, what do you do to prepare yourself to make these soundtracks? Like, how do you get in that zone?
Yeah, it starts with a lot of experimentation and really just thinking about, how do we want this game to feel? What is the tone of this game? What is the texture? And then a lot of that is me sort of experimenting with and figuring out what sort of musical palette I want to use and what sort of genres I want to play with for the game. And some portion of that is decided by what is stuff that I can execute myself, because I do all the music pretty much myself. I have my friend Ashley sing on some stuff, but pretty much everything else is I do by myself. and so it's got to be one of my requirements is it's just got to be something that I can make on my own. You know, and that's that sort of is limiting in a way that I find helps direct me to something, if that makes sense. You know how sometimes having a set of boundaries are helpful, I find, for doing a creative project, because it can sort of direct you in a particular way when you have any option available to you. Sometimes it's hard to make creative choices, you know. Okay. Yeah. So I like the limitations of that provides, and sort of setting up, kind of trying to poke my way around a type of music and make a few pieces and start to feel out the vibe, and how, you know, how can I reinforce the tone and the vibe that the art that Jen is making is providing. You know, how can I reinforce that and support that? What's the tone of the world and the story and the characters, and how can I support and reinforce that, and just help immerse the player in the world? And that's sort of where those kinds of questions are, where all that stuff comes from for me.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have a question. I know you guys like big in the indie section in the indie world. Do you guys ever get inspired by other indie devs and what they do for their games? Or
absolutely, yeah. I mean, Supergiant was founded in large part because, you know, some of the founders were really inspired by games like Castle Crashers and Braid, and things that, you know, had just come out on Xbox Live Arcade, and things that, you know, downloadable only games where there were these small studios making games that were really impactful and meaningful to us individually, and that was one of the big inspirations for why the company was even founded in the first place. So absolutely, we're always looking at you know, trying to play as much as we can and as much as we have time for, and you know, just like studios like Playdead and other studios, they're really sort of pushing the boundaries of what you can do with a small team and how well you can possibly execute something. You know, it's pretty cool to look at games like that those guys make.
One more question. Since you're in the indie section, what is your favorite indie title of 2016 so far?
Oh, geez, of 2016? Oh, man, that's a tough one. I'm still, you know, it's interesting. 2016 is a year where I'm mostly playing backlog games. Like, I haven't played a lot of new games this year. I've played a lot of games, but they're all like came out last year for the most part. So that's a tough one. You know, I haven't gotten around to Inside yet. I really want to play that. I really want to play Firewatch. And these are games that everybody on team has played and really enjoyed in different ways. Salt and Sanctuary is another one. You know, anyway,
every great game.
They're all on my radar, but I'm still getting through, like, you know, games from last year and the year before right now. So, yeah, but I plan this sort of winter, hopefully, to chug through a bunch of stuff.
A game that you should look out for that definitely has like that Supergiant type of flow to it with their game is a game called Stories: Path of Destinies. The way how they narrate.
Oh yeah.
It's an action, RPG type game, similar to like Bastion, and how the narrator is us talking over and everything the person's doing, he's explaining. It's a great game. I think you guys should look into that. I think they might be inspired by you guys, to be honest with you.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that sounds cool. What was the name again?
Stories: Path of Destinies.
Okay, cool. Stories: Path of Destiny. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, question I have for you guys is like Supergiant games this generation seem to be very synonymous with PlayStation, and I just want to ask you guys, like, why is that? And what's your relationship with the PlayStation brand when it comes to Supergiant, especially this generation?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, PlayStation's been really great to work with. They were really enthusiastic when we started showing Transistor, and that's sort of the reason that we ended up working with them, was just their level of enthusiasm was super high, and they just seemed really excited about the game, and that's kind of the main factor in a lot of that stuff, and of course, we release on other platforms and things like that. But yeah, Sony's just been really kind of good to work with in a lot of ways. So yeah, and it's kind of the same deal with Pyre. They were really enthusiastic about Pyre and really supportive and everything. So yeah, I mean that's sort of what it comes down to. And we make our way serially to other platforms. And I'm sure if we could, we'd release on everything all at once. But we're just such a small team that we have to kind of port our games serially and do them one or two platforms at a time. So yeah, that's sort of the best answer I can give.
It's definitely, I always like to ask that type of question because, everybody have like a different thing when it comes
Sure.
to, but overall the result is the same. Like they're very, understandable, and they work with people very closely, or, just giving that game that chance to be on the platform.
Yeah.
All right. Going back to the characters, I noticed for my playtime with Pyre is that there's some characters faster, slower. Some characters shoot their magic out faster. And I just wanted to ask, is there like a rating system in this game?
Yeah, there are stats. The players all have stats that determine a lot of that stuff. There's a quickness stat. There's a presence, which is how big the aura is.
Yeah.
There's I believe there's hope, which is how quickly your character responds after they get knocked out, and things like that. So and then there's a couple more, but yeah, no, we definitely most of those things are tracked by stats that then can be sort of improved in the single player mode. There's ways to modify those as of now. And also there are skills that you pick when you level up with your characters, and that can improve their abilities and change what they're capable of.
Oh, so there's a skill tree in the game.
Yeah. In the single player mode, for sure, there is a skill tree. Yeah, each character has his own skill tree.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I have to ask the burning question that people want to know.
Sure.
I have to ask it. After Pyre, are we going back to the Bastion, man?
We get that question every once in a while. We have no idea. Is the real answer? The answer, it's always we try to make each game that we work on feel as complete as possible, and it's certainly a flattering question to get, because it just means that people want to spend more time in the world that you created, which is really a super flattering question. At the same time, we we feel super lucky that we've been able to make kind of brand new things every time, and that's been really exciting for us. So I have no idea if we'll make,
because you guys can't do this to us. You gave us these endings where we have to know. It's not out of the question that we could one day make some sort of sequel or a game in the same universe as those games, but we don't have any immediate plans for it. We're really just focused on making Pyre and having it be as good as possible, and we're really sort of myopic when it comes to that stuff, where we just start like head down working on the thing, not even thinking about anything else that for the future. So sort of the both real and political answer is the same, which is I don't know.
Now, that's one thing I do respect about you guys, because you guys created Bastion. Right from there, that game was hugely successful. You could have easily went to the path that many other developers do, and just creating a sequel, but no, went to a completely different type of IP into Transistor. And then from there, that game was successful, and people loved that game. And here we're here again, and you're creating another new IP, which is looking in the same vein as the last two. As far as this is something that I think fans of your studio is definitely going to love. Listen to these guys talking about your game after playing it. It just got me excited, and having you here in this interview is getting me excited just listening. Hear you talk.
Awesome. Yeah. And again, that's something that we feel really privileged to be able to do, is to create new IP and new games sort of each time. Because a lot of people, if they have a hit game, they sort of don't have any choice. They have to make a sequel, and they don't really get to make that decision. So we definitely really appreciate the fact that we are able to make that decision. And if we do decide to do a game in the same universe as our other games, we would want to do it because we wanted to do it and were interested and felt we could tell a compelling story and make something, really, really engaging and different.
Yeah, it definitely tells your creative side, from the studio, that you can, each game that you create is a new IP, that takes a lot. And it also shows that you guys have a lot of confidence, in your craft, to just create a new IP.
Awesome.
Every time. So definitely appreciate that, what you, offer towards the industry when it comes to this, gaming is,
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. That's really kind words. I appreciate that.
Another question is, how long has this game been in development, and what were some of the challenges that y'all are facing now and facing like early development?
Yeah. We started around mid 2014, a couple of months after Transistor came out. And we've been working on it since, about 2.5 years. It's been, we've been working on it for a while, and the challenges are always sort of the same, when you're working on a new project. It's like especially something that you're building kind of from the ground up. It's, what is this game going to feel like? What is this? Just answering all the questions that you ask at the beginning of a project, making all those decisions and experimenting with different options. What is the game going to feel like? What's the setting going to be? What is the game going to look like? How are we going to tell the story in this game? What is the combat? What is the, and really just sort of hammering all that stuff out. We spent a long time prototyping this game, really, like we did for Transistor. That game spent like a super long time in the prototyping phase, for us, relatively speaking. So, it's certainly the beginning of the project has a lot of different challenges from the middle of the project, which has a lot of different challenges from the end of the project too. It's different phases of development, right? The sort of beginning is figuring all that stuff out. The middle of the project is sort of building some of it. And for us, it's been kind of building a section of it and polishing it up as much as possible so we can show it to people. And then after that, the sort of last third is just, quarter is just going through and fleshing out the entire game and really getting the entire game to be up to that standard of polish that we tried to put on that little section, that little slice of the game. So that's sort of where we're at now, is just making sure, we kind of finish strong, as strong as we can.
And with the challenges, do y'all sometimes beat yourself up? Because coming from Bastion, come from Transistor, do like doubt set in? Like, how do we top these two gems? Like, what can we do to top that?
I think we did a lot more of that while we were working on Transistor, and we certainly felt the pressure of Bastion a lot more working on that game. Now I feel like, we've done it twice, we've made games twice, and we've been fortunate enough to have people really respond well to them both times, and I think one of the things that people respond to is our willingness to take risks and just do something interesting to us and try something different. So I think we're learning to trust that instinct a little bit more and not be so neurotic about it. Certainly there's still anxiety. Before the first time you show a game, that is the time where like the most fights and like, worry and stress happens like on the team. I would say even more than any other time in development. It's just like, is this good? Like, we can't tell, and that's sort of the moment where it's really stressful right before you show it to people for the first time. But no, I think in general, this project has been like not quite as intense in that department as Transistor was.
Yeah, y'all getting used to it now.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but we're just sort of, we sort of are trying to just kind of do what we do as best we can, and sort of not pay quite as much attention to to how to the relationship to the other two projects necessarily. And this game is so different. It's a lot more different from our other two games than Transistor was from Bastion, I would say, even just because some sort of superficial things were similar about those games, like the perspective and this and that, and the way you travel around the world is sort of like kind of similar, even if the games were pretty different, if that makes sense.
Okay.
All right, my last question to you. Where do you see Supergiant Games? Like, where do you see the future of Supergiant Games becoming?
I mean, honestly, like, I think what we really want to do is just continue to do exactly what we're doing, basically. I mean, we want to just stay small, keep making games that are compelling to us, and just like if we can just do that forever, that would be amazing. That's like, we don't have some ambition to be like some huge studio making big franchise games, whatever. That's not really on our radar or something that we're interested in. So I think, I think honestly the answer is just, we want to just continue do what we're doing, but more of that, basically.
Okay.
Okay. Got my money every time.
Awesome.
Is there any other last questions, Nick, you got?
I got one more, and that's what was the feedback like coming from PSX showcasing your game?
It was really great. We had a lot of fun at PSX, actually, which is, shows are usually fun, but they're, PSX for some reason, maybe it was just that it was like a slightly shorter show for us, or that it was Sony built us this really awesome booth and we didn't really have to do a whole bunch on that front, because normally we're building and tearing down our own booths, which is certainly adds a lot of exhaustion to what you're doing there. But man, yeah, it was just a blast, and people had a lot of fun playing the game. And what was cool about showing the multiplayer was that we've never shown any multiplayer for a game before. And so seeing people get really excited and shout and, be like, oh, react to it like you would a sporting event or something, would be really, really excited and effusive in that way. That was really awesome to see, because people play the single player and they'll smile and they'll laugh occasionally, they'll nod and they'll be into it. And that's great. But just from a single player game, you don't really see that kind of reaction that we were able to see this time. So that was a very cool kind of new experience for us. And the response was really good. Everybody, people who played it seemed to dig it. And, the kind of couch multiplayer stuff is, we really enjoy it, and it was fun to see other people enjoy it too.
Yeah, I was there all day. It seemed like
that was awesome.
Sweet, amazing. All right, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to get into like the community questions, because there was a lot of people, in the live chat that's asking questions. That's where you've seen all the
great
things coming up there. But here's a question from Wolfflow. Any other studios you would like to collaborate with?
Oh man, well, we certainly are friendly with the Behemoth. And love all those guys. Collaborate. I don't know that collaborating on a game would be a thing that would make a lot of sense for us, given how kind of small we are. Yeah. But collaborating on other things, PAX type things and projects like that. Double Fine. We've participated in Day of the Devs and stuff a couple of times and done that. There's and we have good friends at a lot of different studios, kind of indie studios, and working with those guys is always a blast in any capacity. So if there were some sort of excuse to to collaborate with them, maybe my personal choice maybe would be that's a tough one. There's a lot of good. Probably it would have to be Playdead. And here's why.
Okay.
Playdead is about the same size as us, but it's like in inverse ratio. They have like 7 programmers or something, and we have 2. So they would probably be the best ratio match from just in terms of ratios.
Oh, nice. Okay. So How small are you guys? Like, or how large are you guys?
We are currently 11 full-time people, and we have contractors. Logan contracts with us and everything, but we consider him part of the team. So yeah, we have 11 people, and two people are operations, kind of keep the lights on people. So I guess actually kind of hammering on the game on a daily basis, there's about 9 people.
Okay, that's cool. All right, so we got a question from Chuck Gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Any genre you would want to dive into for a new IP?
Oh man, that's a toughie. I've been so focused on we're always pretty focused on the game we're working on, so we try not to think too much about other stuff, but we've done, Transistor kind of dabbled in the turn-based strategy area a little bit, but that's an area where I'm super interested in that. I really love like games like Fire Emblem and stuff like that is like just a huge, and XCOM are like some of my favorite games. So making something that's even more of a straight up kind of turn-based strategy thing would be compelling to me. Also, we love CCGs, a lot of us. So, and both of those things were things that we played with, incorporating more than we ended up doing into Transistor. Actually, were CCG components and these other components, and CCG components didn't make it in. So anyway, yeah, those are definitely some genres that are compelling to everybody.
There is a lot of PlayStation fans right now just smiling to the fact that you did a turn-based RPG. Trust me on that one.
Yeah, man, that's my jam. Yeah, and Transistor, we did it a little bit. It was as turn-based as you wanted it to be.
Yeah. Yeah, you can slow it down a little bit and analyze what's going on.
Yeah.
The Sarge 0079. Okay, I gotta ask. Compared to Bastion and Transistor, can we expect any big plot twists?
I mean, I don't know that I can talk about that. It's like
you're trying to get him in trouble.
And also, it's like if I tell you to expect a plot twist, that defeats the twist. So I appreciate the question, but I'm not going to say anything about that, and I'll leave that up to Greg if somebody wants to ask him about it, because he's the man in charge of all that stuff.
Okay, that's a definitely understandable answer right there.
Yeah.
Wolflow asks another question from Wolflow. What are some of the team's favorite games?
Oh man, geez, let's see. Probably my favorite 2 games of the past like 10 years or something are probably XCOM Enemy Unknown and Papers, Please.
Oh. Okay.
So I love the heck out of both of those games for really different reasons. And there's a ton. I have a lot of games that I really enjoy. Oh, Rock Band, I guess, is probably my favorite franchise though of all time. I suppose.
Gotta have the Rock Band up there.
Yeah, I play a lot of that. I don't. This is not a widely known fact, but I am the 2010 National Rock Band champion.
Whoa. Okay.
With that, yeah, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. My rock band won the Battle of the Bands in the Total Rock Total Rewards competition in Atlantic City in 2010. That was one of my finest moments.
You got to mention it. That's
aggression.
Feat.
Other people on team. Let's see. Final Fantasy Tactics is some. I know a favorite of a lot of people. On the team. Fire Emblem games. The advanced one, I think in particular, is a favorite of a lot of people. I really love Awakening. That's probably my favorite Fire Emblem. And Knights of the Old Republic. That game is great. Fallout 1 and 2 are really favorites of a lot of people on team. I know Gavin and Amir and people like that really love the Command and Conquer series and old kind of RTS games. Gavin loves StarCraft a ton. He's a big StarCraft player. Okay. Currently, like half the team is playing and has been playing for like 2 years Hearthstone.
Oh,
and the other half is playing Clash Royale.
Oh
Oh
yeah, yeah,
man.
yeah. Those games are highly addictive
Yes.
on the mobile
Um,
platform.
yeah, so yeah, Hearthstone, Dota. People on the team really love Dota too. So yeah, anyway, got a wide variety of tastes and stuff on the team.
Okay, cool. This is like the lightning round right here.
Yeah.
Another question from Michi Battle. If the multiplayer takes off, would you consider a standalone multiplayer for Pyre?
You know, anything's possible. You know, we haven't really thought that far ahead, but it's not something that's totally out of the question. And you know, if we're interested in sort of doing something that's going to be compelling for players, and if it ends up being that, then you know it's something that we consider.
Okay. And Wolflow asks another question here. Have they considered player decisions have an impact on the ending?
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely considered that. I mean, both. Well, not really in Transistor, but in Bastion, the decisions you make do have a really meaningful sort of impact on the ending that you get. You know, they're two pretty different scenarios that happen, and there's little variables like whether or not you save Zolf, and then whichever choice you make at the end in that sort of binary choice moment. So yes, that's something that we have considered, and we always like when games respond to the choices that you make in the game. So that's something that we're keeping in mind for sure.
Okay, cool. And we have another question here from Carlton. He asks, have you guys considered, especially being a small development team, to have any pro, enhancements to Pyre? Like, is there going to be any 4K HDR type ordeals going on with the game?
We're still looking into that stuff. You know, it's kind of new to us. It's certainly is a little bit more work than when we started making the game than we knew we were going to have to do. It's sort of like making a slightly different SKU of the game.
Yeah.
But not that different. So yeah, I mean, it's cool. We have some stuff that we're experimenting with, and my guess is that we're a 2D game, so just making it be 4K is probably like not super easy, because that would entail like up-resing all the assets, every 2D asset that we have. So the game would be humongo and and probably not run very well. So anyway, we're looking into other options and looking at what sort of enhancements we can make, basically.
Oh, yeah, I mean that stuff right there is always intriguing to know, because
Yeah.
a lot of people would just think like, hey, how come this game is not in 4K? How can't they just update it with a pro patch or something?
Yeah,
pretty
there's a
much
lot of sort of behind the scenes wizardry that has to happen in order to make that stuff occur. So and as a small team, again, we don't have a lot of extra sort of programming manpower to take those tasks on if they are major tasks. So we're gonna try to do something nice, as nice as we can for that stuff, and do something that people will be able to appreciate if they have the pro system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. And here's the final question. As far as the community wise, Mr. Official VG asks, how can those who are upcoming developers contact you guys? Just to get in like contact. As far as trying to work with you guys or anything like that.
Yeah, we contacting developers in general, things that are for networking tend to be good, like GDC, even shows like PAX and things that are not necessarily geared toward professionals as much. Those are also things that that are good opportunities to meet people. Things like even depending on what field you're interested in, MagFest, which is if you're interested in game audio or music, that's a cool place to go and meet other people. Voice actor, things like that. If you want aspiring voice actor, that's a place you could go. And GDC as well. So sort of generally speaking, that's some advice that I would have. Specifically for us, we're not if we are looking for to hire, we will absolutely let people know.
Yeah.
But it's sort of until then, we don't really have any bandwidth for new people at the moment. But if you can always sort of reach out to us on through the website if you want to get in contact. Supergiantgames.com. We have a contact form on there, and that's probably if you're interested in contacting us, that's probably the best way to do it. If it's about that sort of thing.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's good to know. Good to know. But yeah, this was a pleasure. Doing this with you.
Awesome. Yeah, it was fun.
Definitely a lot of fun. Definitely a lot of stuff that I learned that I didn't know about the game because I wasn't really there. But yeah, this is a great opportunity. I just feel like this is important, just to get a lot more people in the PlayStation community because we're more on the PlayStation side of things. I know this game is coming on Steam as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want, as much PlayStation gamers as we can, grab onto to get them, tied up with this game pretty much.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate the enthusiasm. I'm so glad that people were able to check it out at PSX and we always come off of shows like that really energized and excited to get back to work on the game because it's certainly refreshing to show it to people and have them like it, after you have just been staring at it for months and being like, God, I'm so frustrated. I can't, you kind of lose perspective and you can't, and you forget that it's actually fun. So it's always nice.
That's amazing, man. Any last words or, any last pitch? Matter of fact, I have to ask, I can't believe we forgot to ask this, guys.
Sure.
The release date. Is there a release date? Is there a release window?
Just 2017 is sort of the window. It's a 12-month release window.
Okay, I got you.
I could say safely that the game is probably not coming out next month.
Okay.
So it's an 11-month window. Let's just say that.
Okay.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
By you being such a great audio director, what inspired you to become one?
I wish I had a more inspiring story for this. I just kind of stumbled into it. Before I was doing games, I was writing songs and producing people and trying to do anything in music I could, playing in bands and being sort of like a little bit of a hired gun musician sometimes in New York and playing gigs. And my buddy Amir Rao is one of the co-founders of Supergiant. When he was starting the studio, he just asked me to do it. We grew up playing in bands together, and he worked with me creatively a lot in the past and just thought I could do it. And that was it, honestly. He's just like, hey, why don't you do all the music and sound for us? Because you could probably do that. So that's sort of it. I mean, we grew up, in addition to playing in bands together, we grew up playing games, video games, and D&D and all that stuff together forever too. So, and when he was in college, he had made a little student video game, and I had done some sound, basic kind of sound effects for it or whatever, and a little piece of music. But I wouldn't call that real experience. But that was the only other experience I'd had with that stuff. So yeah, it was a really I had to kind of learn real quickly and dive into the deep end kind of right away, a sink or swim type situation. But that sometimes for some people, and I know for me, kind of a high pressure situation is a really, really good kind of learning environment because it really motivates you to just get it done. Learn what you have to survive and just do it.
Yeah, that's interesting that you just felt this. It is fell in your lap because, again, I done told you before that you do amazing work. And the next time I see you, I'm gonna have you to sign my Transistor soundtrack and Bastion soundtrack. I need the autograph.
Yeah,
sure,
that's another thing I wanted to ask real quick. Sorry with these late questions.
That's all right.
But with Transistor, that's a game that had like a lot of merchandise going for it. You have the action doll, or you have one of my favorite things, the Flash.
Oh yeah, Flash Drive. Yeah.
I won that, by the way.
Is there something like that coming with Pyre?
I mean, I'm sure we'll eventually make stuff to support Pyre. I don't know what specifically it'll be, but I'd imagine we've done it for both of our other games, and it would make sense for us to do it again. We're definitely going to make a soundtrack, so there'll at least be that.
You heard it here, guys. It's a confirmation. So that's amazing. But yeah, any last selling pitch on which
I have one thing to say.
Okay.
I want to see you guys make at least 2 games. One just a straight puzzle title, and another one a twin stick shooter. That's all I ask.
Oh, really? All right, interesting. Yeah. I haven't thought about that.
Imagine that, a twin stick shooter with like the storytelling.
Yeah. Cool. No, that's a cool idea. Nice. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
See, it's there.
Nice.
The idea has been pitched, guys. It has been pitched.
Awesome.
But yeah, any last words when it comes to Pyre, as far as getting people excited for this game?
Yeah, as far as the pitch goes, I'm not really sure what else I can say other than I'm personally really excited about it. It's a game that I think is, in a lot of ways, it's bigger than our other 2 games, and I'm really excited for people to kind of dive in. It's certainly like strange, and I hope people really fall into it, because I think it presents a lot of interesting depth from a world standpoint. I'm sort of happiest with the world of this game that I've been with sort of any of our projects, which is really exciting to me, and I hope people really dig it, and I'm just excited to kind of finish it out and get it in people's hands.
Sweet. Amazing. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for this interview. We'll definitely appreciate everybody for coming by. Once again, thank you to Darren for coming by and just doing this interview with us. This interview will also be up on our website, whatsupplaystation.com. But in the description below, we'll also have where you guys can follow Supergiant Games on Twitter, at Supergiant Games, and we'll also have your website, your home website, for your development team, also in the description, so they can follow you there as well and see what you guys are doing and all the great merchandise that you guys have when it comes to your games. But yeah,
awesome.
Thanks once again. Definitely appreciate it.
My pleasure. Yeah, it was a blast.
No.
All right, guys. So that's pretty much it. Thank everybody for coming through for the interview. Once again, tune into whatsupplaystation.com so you can get the full article with this interview also embedded within the article. All right. Have a good day, guys. Later.